Welcome back, fellow cardboarders. Several of you have asked me to make a video about my Firja ORZHOV CANTRIPS deck. We're gonna look what's inside, what she does. It's a German card, some nice combos in here, and why I think this deck is quite unique. This is Think outside the deck box, and here is a translation for the commander. I really like the dark aesthetic of this card and chose to match the background with the sleeves. So Firja is an angel cleric for 2, a white and 2 black, a 2/4 flyer with lifelink, and whenever I cast my second spell during any turn, which is important, any turn, not just my turn, I may look at the top 3 cards of my library and pick one and throw the rest into the graveyard. And for ORZHOV standards, this is quite a unique effect. So the idea was to build around Firja's effect by putting as many cantrips in as I can. Cantrips meaning cheap spells that also replace themselves by letting me draw another card from them. So let's go ahead and look at this pile of cantrips cards. We are starting out with Due Respect for 1 and a white. It's an instant that lets permanents enter the battlefield tap this turn, which is quite a useful effect, I guess. Maybe someone's building their token army and you just see an imminent attack, so maybe you want to stop that before they run over via a Concordant Crossroads, and it lets you draw another card. We have Defiant Strike, which gives +1/+0 until end of turn and draws you a card for just 1 mana. It's mostly here for drawing the card. So the idea is you have your commander on the board and you cast 2 of these spells during either your turn or an opponent's turn. Obviously you want to keep the instants for your opponent's turns, so you can churn a little deeper into your deck as well, picking out the cards you actually need or want, throwing the rest into the graveyard. And we're going to try to do that every single turn, latest at the end of any player's end step. We have other weird cards like the Wisps here, which changes the color of a creature to white and taps it, so sure, can be useful, and you draw a card. There's also the black variant somewhere in here. We're gonna look at that in a sec. We got the Festival of the Guild Pact, which you can cast for just a single white mana to just draw a card and prevent the next 0 damage that will happen. But you can also prevent either Firja from dying to a certain damage spell, or maybe there's lethal damage coming your way and you want to prevent that. Got the Spell Bomb here, which I also put in here since it replaces itself and also exiles the graveyard of any player. Very useful. Cremate just takes out 1 card but also replaces itself by drawing a card. We got Cling to Dust, which I find a very underplayed card, so if you like drawing several cards and don't really need your graveyard later down the game, you should try out Cling to Dust. Let me know how it works out for you, because most of the time you're able to cast it 2 or 3 or maybe even 4 times throughout the game, drawing you an extra card, or if you really need it, gaining 1 life at instant speed. So we can do that quite often in this deck. There is the Black Wisp, which gives a creature fear in addition to turning it black, and it draws a card. Got Deadly Dispute, which actually lets us draw 2 cards and create a treasure as well, but we do have to sacrifice some artifact or creature, hopefully some random token where we got flying around later. For example, you see this land here, which creates a 0/3 wall token. For your second spell during each turn, we're gonna look at the lands later down the line. We got this interesting card here, which lets you cast the next creature spell at instant speed. So we're not playing many creatures, but being able to cast a creature at instant speed for our second spell for the turn can be quite useful, and it replaces itself. Even if we don't cast a creature, we still draw a card and get the Firja trigger if this was our second spell. For example, the Foulmire Knight we could cast at instant speed from Adventure, so that could be quite useful and people would not see that coming. We're gonna play it for the instant ability first, and then we're gonna just put it there for a, well, very useful death touch blocker, to be honest. Got Aura Blast here, which straight up destroys any enchantment and draws us a card. Got 2 Arms, which is a very unique card, and not many people even know it exists, and it untaps all creatures, which, well, to be honest, we're not going to use that often. We're not playing that many creatures, I just said, but it also draws us a card. This one gives a creature protection from a color and draws us a card. We could save our commander or any other creature we want to save. We can't use it politically though, because it says creatures I control. But yeah, it's a cantrip, it replaces itself. This one I really like, though it is one of the cantrips I might want to cut at some point if I find a better one. If you got some better ideas what I should include, let me know in the comments below. Because this one often lies around dead in my hand, even though it replaces itself for just 1 mana. Because often I don't have a creature that might damage someone and then I can play it. So maybe I should play it at an opponent's turn if someone else blocked a creature from someone else. But yeah, then again, often it's not the most important creature to remove. Yeah, so I'm a little on the edge about this card, but it is a cantrip, so it's useful. Esper Sentinel straight up is not a cantrip since people can pay for it, stopping us to draw cards. So it could also go into the card draw pile, which funnily enough does not exist since we play that many cantrips and our commander is a card draw engine. So this you could also see as the card draw pile. And lastly, we're playing a straight up card draw card, the Necropotence, which at some point might let us draw our whole deck if we want to, but most of the time it will keep our hand full so we can play more cantrips during our opponent's turns. Now let's look at the removal pile, which also is quite cheap. You'll see the average mana value of this deck is relatively cheap. And of course we want that because we want to play 2 spells during each opponent's turn if we can. So being able to cast stuff for free like Snuff Out is wonderful. So for just 4 mana, if we control a swamp and we do have Urborg in the deck, we can cast it for free and destroy any non-black creature which can't be regenerated. Similarly, Abolish, very useful card. We can discard a Plains from our hand and then just straight up destroy any artifact or enchantment without paying the mana cost of Abolish. I sorted this pile by mana value, so we're going to look at mana value 1 now. These I put at 0 since we most of the time are able to cast it for 0 mana. Playing the classic Swords to Plowshares and Path to Exile here, not much to say about them. This one has mana value 6, but it has Delve, and many of the cards, for example the Path to Exile, if it's in the graveyard, we don't really need. And lands we discarded for Abolished, for example, we also don't want to see anymore. And Firja also fills up our graveyard with her ability, so we always have cards to delve for, and this card most of the time will just cost us 1 black mana and everyone has to discard 2 cards. Every opponent. Very, very nice and very mean. We're playing twice the same card, once in black and once in white. Both of them exile cards from graveyards and both of them have flashback, which is very useful since we can make use of these cards twice, further ensuring down the line that we always have a spell to play and a second one to play for Firja. Similarly, the Dart Blast has Dredge. We're not playing it really for the first ability, though we can take out some Llanowar Elves if we want to, but most of the time it's just there for the Dredge ability, so we can take it back and cast it again over and over again. Murderous Cut, similar to the Cruelty here, allows us to delve again to destroy creature, so most of the time this will cost us 1 mana. Got the Intervention, which most of the time will cost more than just 2 mana, and can at instant speed destroy a whole bunch of artifacts and enchantments, or it can actually save our lives, which it already has more than just once. We're playing this German card here, maybe it's like translated to Sudden Silence or something, I'll show it on screen. This has Buyback, and Buyback is also a very nice way to ensure that we have this spell in our hand over and over again. So most of the time we're going to play the whole 5 mana to destroy an enchantment and then play it over and over again throughout the turns. Some board wipe cards. We're going to play Damnation. Beautiful art by Seb McKinnon here. Gonna play this one, which also costs 4 and destroys every creature but one of each player. So everyone chooses one of their creatures and the rest is destroyed. We're gonna choose Firja most of the time, but sometimes there is an important creature which we wanna play, and Firja is our commander, so we can play her again. And it has flashback as well, so that is nice. Tragic Arrogance similarly, but I am able to choose who is gonna keep what, and it also destroys artifact, enchantments, and planeswalkers, except for 1 for each player. So yeah, most of the time, Firja is gonna stay on the board, and the rest is gonna go into the graveyard. Some more other cards which I could have also included in here, but didn't. Reverend Mantra is a card that can also be cast for 0 mana by removing a white card, similar to like a Force of Will. And it just straight up protects all creatures from a single color. At instant speed, very useful. Apostle's Blessing similarly protects a creature or artifact from a color or artifact, so that's really nice. And most of the time we're gonna pay the 2 life. Tainted Strike can be a win con if we find a 10 or higher power creature that is just gonna be let through. We can help a player to kill that player actually with a 1-hit punch, or it has to be a 9/9, but it will be seldomly one of our creatures since we don't play that big creatures. We have a 8/8 creature, but this one won't kill anyone with 9 poison counters. They are not really dead. Most of the time this will be a political card or an alpha strike from an opponent. The Rebirth is here to save our important creatures or our commander, and sometimes I do play it on the back if I'm really desperate for mana. Prismatic Strands is another useful card many Pauper players will already know.
You red shirt peasants!
For 3 mana, it prevents all damage from sources of a single color, which I choose, and it has flashback, so I can tap a white creature, my commander is white for example, to flash it back again to be able to cast more spells during turns. Next up, the mana ramp cards. We're playing Dark Ritual in here just to be able to ramp ahead very fast and play our commander 2 turns earlier is very useful, but generally any important or mana intensive card can be played with this one. Very nice ramp card, a very cool artwork in my eyes. I'm gonna play the Sol Ring. I opened the secret layer on our channel if you're interested in the bonus card that was inserted here. Gonna play Marble Diamond as well as the Black Charcoal Diamond. Mind Stone, I sorted this by mana value as well. Fellmore Stone, Talisman, Signet, Thought Vessel, Arcane Signet. Then we have Smothering Tithe. People should pay for this one, otherwise it's gonna get bonkers. Since I'm able to play so many cantrips if I get so much mana with the treasures, don't underestimate. If I have like 10-20 treasures, most of the time it's over. Got Cryptghast in here to be able to also extort for my spells. Really nice. And double the swamp mana with Uberk out. Classic combo. And we have the Scourge Familia, which is one of our combo pieces in this deck, enabling us to discard cards which we drew to gain us a single black mana. Can end the game depending on the rest of the cards that I have on the board. We're gonna see how in a second. Now lastly, before we hit into the mana base, we have Fairy Tauntings, which is a card not many people know about. The tribal enchantment for 2 and a black. Whenever I play a spell during an opponent's turn, everyone loses 1 life, every one of my opponents. So yeah, we're gonna do that with the deck. And this one can drain quite some life throughout the game and should be destroyed by opponents. We got Clarion Spirit, which also checks if we played a second spell during each turn and creates a 1/1 white spirit with flying. So we got some blockers going here, but also could go for an attack if I want to with them. This one's always useful and churns out a whole bunch of 1/1s. Similarly, the Sedgemoor Witch has Manage and Ward pay 3 life, so this one has protection stapled onto it already, and has Magecraft, so whenever I cast, I won't copy that much a instant or sorcery spell, I create a 1/1 green pest token with when it dies I gain 1 life. So another token creator. We got the reserved list card, which is currently quite cheap, so if you like it, maybe get it. The Buzium Strip, which is an artifact for 3 and has 3 and a tap ability. And here it is really important to adhere to a rule that you are not allowed to shuffle your graveyard or change the order, because this one checks if the top card is an instant or sorcery card. If it is, you're able to flash it back for its mana costs. And this one should cost like maybe €3, maybe $4 currently. So if you are creating a Cardmarket account, do put in CardboardTutor as your referral to support the channel, and it won't cost you anything. We're playing the Elixir here to be able to reset our graveyard if someone wants to remove our combo pieces. We're playing like 2 or 3 combo pieces in here. Gonna look at them in a sec. But also maybe we churn through our deck or we're playing against a mill strategy and our deck is going slim. Then we might wanna reset our grave as well. And it's very cheap, so this also counts towards casting a spell for our turn. Similarly, the expedition map lets us look for important lands like the Urborg, the Cabal Coffers, maybe the Lord of the Rings land here. Gonna look in a sec. Got Empty the Pits, which is an instant, quite importantly. So we can surprise people with that. It has double X and 4 black, so we're gonna pay a whole bunch of mana, but we can delve, for example, our whole graveyard away to put onto the battlefield like 10, 20 zombies. And this can also end the game quite easily. Reanimate if we find a useful creature from our opponents, but also maybe our important creatures got thrown down by our commander and we couldn't use them then. This one lets us reanimate them. Teferi's Protection just generally to be able to protect ourselves. Mother of Runes to protect our commander, or generally important creatures on the battlefield. This is a beautiful stacks piece for just a single white mana. Lets opponents have their creatures enter the battlefield tapped, and we always gain a life when any creature enters the battlefield on our opponent's side. Demonic Tutor to be able to look for the important pieces of our deck, depending on what we need. Lightning Greaves as well as the Swiftfoot Boots to protect our commander or important creatures again. This is one of the important creatures, Villis, and it synergizes well with the Scourge Familia. We discard a card, gain 1 mana, we pay 1 mana, pay 2 life, draw 2 cards, so we always net 1 card with that effect, and then we only have to look out that we don't drain ourselves too much, and we can also start destroying our opponent's creatures. Then we have Bolas Citadel, which lets us play cantrips from the top of our library, very useful. And if we hit a land card, we try to stack the ability of Firja so that she can, for example, remove the lands and in hope that there is no land on top. But also we have maybe Villis to be able to draw the card again and then play the Bolas Citadel and then play the top card with the Bolas Citadel again. Then we have the Aetherflux Reservoir, which is a win con in this deck. We're playing kind of like Cantrip's Storm here, playing a whole bunch of weird useless spells from time to time, which we might not really need protection for or infect on our commander or whatever. But if this is our like 10th or 12th spell, during one turn we're gonna be able to kill everyone on the battlefield. So give your opponents something to do, let them count the spells you cast as well as the life counter, so everyone has something to do. And then we have the Exsanguinate, which if we have the Scourge Familia and like 40 cards on our hand, we're able to discard them all and drain everyone and end the game this way. Now I hope you enjoyed this video so far. If you did, do consider subscribing to the channel. We're almost at 600 subscribers. Do follow me on all the socials up here. And now let's lastly look at the land base. Yeah, I know guys. Probably already 5 people wrote into the comments that this card is not a land. I just realized, I don't know why I thought it was. Maybe it's the framing. Yeah, so this is an artifact. Yeah, this should be put onto this pile. And I know I'm kind of a hypocrite when I said I did not want any Universes Beyond cards in my decks that are not Universes Beyond themselves. But this card is just too good to pass on. I mean, it's a 4 mana artifact. And whenever you cast your second spell each turn, again, I draw a card and create a 0/3 wall token. And then I can even go for a swing with my commander, since all defender creatures have exalted at the beginning of combat. So if I just attack with my commander, this one will get like +5/+5 or +10/+10, depending on how many defenders I have on the board. And then I could even win with the Tainted Strike by infecting someone to death. So let's put this one here and let's look at the actual mana base. We're playing around 30 something lands. We're playing the cycling cycle, which allow me to discard them for any other card on top of my library. I'm gonna play some plains here, like 5. Then we have the black cycling land, Bojuka Bog, just a solid removal, should be in any black deck. Lake of the Dead, another wonderful reserved list card, combined with Urborg lets me sacrifice any of my lands to create 4 mana for any time I tap it, but if I don't want to sack lands, I will tap it for just a single black mana. We're also playing the Cabal Coffers, obviously, and some fewer swamps here for... Don't worry, the Snow Covered does not really have a use in my deck, it's just for the art, I just liked it. We're playing the black and white flip land here to fix our colors, Command Tower, Fabled Passage, all the good stuff here. The 2 fetch lands to be able to fetch for the Godless Shrine as well. I don't mind showing some plains or swamps to have this enter the battlefield untapped. We're playing the Hive here to filter our mana, some Pain land, some check land, a Canopy land if we don't need the mana. At some point we're gonna sack it for another card, so it replaces itself. Tainted Field creates black or white if I own a swamp on the battlefield. So this sometimes, I might replace it, this sometimes hurt me more than it used me. And some of the times it just created the colorless mana since I didn't have a swamp on the battlefield. I did have like maybe more lands that created black mana but not swamps. So this I might replace with a white or black mana, we'll see. Then we're playing a Field of Ruin and a Ghost Quarter, just to be able to handle some lands that are no-nos on the battlefield from my opponents. And lastly we're playing the Gaia Reach Sanitarium, which lets me filter through my hand and also is a little nice and political, so everyone can do that. But now I do want to hear from you. What are some cards you think I forgot to put into my ORZHOV Cantrips deck? Let us know in the comments below. Boop this left button here so that we can reach the 600 subscriber goal faster, and click the right video for some more CardboardTutor awesomeness. See you there, have a good one, and bye bye.